Hello, Justin Boyd, Liberty University, History 530. Going to cover denominational diversity with the topic on focusing on Puritanism. It's basically a religion reform movement in the late 16th and 17th centuries that sought to purify the Church of England of remnants of the Roman Catholic popery. Their efforts to transform the nation contributed both to civil war in England and to the founding of colonies in America as working models of the Puritan way of life. John Winthrop, upon landing in modern-day Massachusetts in 1630, gave a sermon about a city upon a hill, quoting Jesus from his Sermon on the Mount, basically saying that all eyes of the world will be on them, so therefore they need to be an example. They need to live up to the standards that they have, prove to the world and God that they are, I wouldn't say the chosen people per se, but they will live to the standards that need be for what they were trying to accomplish. They believed they had to build a covenant with God, meaning a promise that builds a lasting relationship between the Creator and His creation. They emphasized living a godly life both individually and as a community. A high importance was placed on preaching in the belief that the Holy Spirit was the instrument of salvation. The importance of education and literacy was utilized by them. They started different colleges such as Harvard, Yale, and Dartmouth, because when they first came over, they were mostly families. They weren't a lot of, when there was a lot of people that would come over to America, it was just different groups of people. The Puritans, it was families. They put a lot of emphasis on education, literacy. There was a high literacy rate with them. So one of the main differences is they believed that instead of being preached to and being told what to do and what to believe, they wanted everyone to be able to have the ability to read the Bible themselves. They wanted to be able to have the individual interpret it how they needed to interpret it. So the morals and ideals held by the Puritans between 1630 and 1670 influenced the social development of the colonies by putting into practice a series of rules which our founding fathers would use to create the political structure of the New England colonies. So they lived by a high moral standard, and they realized, and John Winthrop realized, that in order for the Puritan colonies to work, they all had to be on the same page. They had to live godly themselves. Because if you wanted to have the least amount of rules and regulations, but also be able to live a just life, everyone had to be on the same page. You had to know that you could trust your neighbor. You could do the right thing when you weren't being watched. And that's kind of the ideals that they were wanting as the founding fathers. So over time, eventually different sects of the people that were in the Puritan colony eventually went to different areas. They went to Rhode Island, Connecticut. The Quakers went to Pennsylvania. So they eventually distributed out, and the Puritans kind of went away from society in a way. But still, the effect of what they had, because in England, it was a diverse time to where it was kind of being taken over by the Catholic Church in a way, and they were really worried about that. They wanted their freedoms. They wanted to be able to have freedom of religion without any sort of segregation or being oppressed in any way. This is a time in England when there were murders and everything going on both sides between Protestants, Catholics, different stuff. So they wanted to try to live a just society. Granted, the Puritans weren't perfect people. They also had issues. And I think that stems from wanting to maintain that straight and narrow of trying to live up to that standard of the city upon a hill, which led to different issues that eventually looked at negatively from the perspective of them. So it's easy to be in the future and kind of look back with the 2020 hindsight. But if you try to look at it from the time of the 1620s to like the mid 1600s, early 1700s, where they were coming from, what their mindset was, and how difficult life back then would be in the early colonies. You knew that you had to rely on each other, so they were going off of their faith. They knew that they had to have a faith. Humans need some sort of faith-based system in their life. It creates a good and just society. Unfortunately, it feels as if we have gone away from that quite a bit. Society is lacking in that, where you can look at the Puritans as being negative in a way, but also extremely positive by their approach of doing what is good, being godly. So that's kind of where the Puritans are from my perspective. Thank you.